Hi, Huntresses!
Welcome to Talk Rich to Me,
where we explore the human side of finance. We are your co-hosts,
Yesenia Rhodes
and Stephanie Gutman,
co-founders of Huntress Wealth. On today's episode of Talk Rich to Me, we'll discuss the origin story of Huntress Wealth, our relationship as co-founders, and the reason we're making this podcast. Hope you enjoy. Engaging to find out a little bit about the host before you start diving in, and I would love for our listeners to learn more about you and me and why we're doing this. Yeah. So why don't we just start off with a little introduction?
So you and I were 18-year-olds interning while we were both studying finance in college. We both interned at a financial advisory, which is a little ironic given what we're doing now. But I remember that first day, like Yesenia walks in like a powerhouse, and she's just like unabashed. She didn't quite say these words, but it felt this way, like, you're gonna be my friend now. And she's like, we're going to lunch.
Yeah.
And I'd never been to La Madeleine before, and I thought it was so fancy to be going to a French fast casual place, but she took me to La Madeleine, and I remember stressing about spending the money, which is, I think, relevant to this here. And I got the soup, the tomato basil soup, because it was the cheapest item, and it turns out it's the best tomato basil soup I've ever had. So that's like my memory of how we met. And you know, now we are here literal lifetime later, friends all along the way and starting a new journey together.
I think it's funny how people think I am a powerhouse. It's funny. I'm literally 5 foot, maybe 3.
You have a much bigger presence.
But regardless, I remember meeting Stephanie and thinking, wow, she's cool and smart, and she's the head intern. And we were both finance majors, so obviously we should be besties. Because
not wrong. Obviously, finance brings people together.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry that I stressed you out about going to La Madeleine.
That's fine. I've learned to communicate my money needs more clearly. It was the best $15 I've ever spent on lunch.
Was it?
I got a friend.
Much?
It was like $12.75. Believe me, I know this.
Okay, that was rough times in 2007.
I mean, that was like 2 hours of working. I'm pretty sure we were getting paid like $8 or $10 an hour.
Yeah.
Like post taxes.
Maybe
like
$2. Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, thanks for that introduction. I love that. I do think it's important for everyone to know that not only are we co-founders of a new exciting company called Huntress Wealth, but one thing that I've always admired about Stephanie was that she had this book of ideas ever since we were in college. And I was like, yeah, one day I'm going to work for her. I get to work with her, which is amazing. You called me in November after the election day, and here we are.
So I was a little shocked on November 6th, November 5th, but like waking up the morning of November 6th. Maybe I shouldn't have been. We can get into like, you know, polling and what we tell ourselves, but I was pretty like, how are we here? How are there this many people not prioritizing women's voices? And like, if you look at the gender split in the election, right? Like, yes, obviously there were women who voted the way I don't understand, but it was mostly men, right? And so the idea that like we can't rely on men to speak up for our needs. I don't know why this is a new idea. I don't know why this was a lightning strike moment for me. We have like centuries of experience in this, but we have to stand up for our own needs. We as women plus have to stand up for our own everything. It's not just going to be given to us. And so I was reflecting that day. So it was just, what can I do? I don't want to feel helpless. I do feel powerful in other areas of my life. Why am I feeling like I can't make a difference here? I've donated. I share stuff on social. I go to protests. I call people. But I was reflecting as like the people influencing things. This is at the same time we were getting like billionaire lineups, right? We've basically just had like stages full of billionaires telling us stuff for the last 6 months. And it's like, oh, to make a difference, you have to have the money, right? And that's not true. You can influence in other ways. Like, you can be powerful without money, but money's a pretty clear way to be powerful, at least in our society. And so I was like, well, if I want women to have equal say in our government and equal say in business and equal say in our society, then we need to have equal money. So then I went Googling because I didn't know if that's how much we had or not. And it's like significantly less. Women hold 30% of the wealth in the US, which is actually like higher than I thought, which is maybe gross, but it's well less than 50%.
By the way, I feel like all this research got done before 9 a.m. Eastern time on November 6th because I was in New York for a conference and I got a text message that was like, I'm going to change my career path. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I am in New York right now, and I, at the time, was hosting and emceeing a large event for what was my job.
Of very powerful money managers in a room.
Yes, lots of men. I was like, okay, well, Steph, I've learned that money moves everything. That's what, exactly to your point, that's what I took from November 5th. Obviously, Elon Musk was extremely influential in the outcome. And I was like, I will table this conversation with you for when I'm back in Austin.
You needed to make it through the event you were responsible for.
Yes. And I was like, frankly, this wasn't a huge surprise to me. I was in Miami a couple weeks ago, and it was pretty clear to me because that's generally swing state, and generally, I got the vibes. But I think that, that was something crazy. We had a few conversations many conversations actually, over the period of 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, because to be clear, I want women to have half the money isn't necessarily a business plan, right? That's a desire.
Yeah.
But is there actually a problem? Do women want to have more money? Which is like, again, feels silly to ask, but what's holding them back from having it? It wasn't a business from the start. Like, there was definitely a journey to get to what are we going to do about it.
Right. And I think that started off as education and what we felt like that could be. And anyways, 2 weeks later, I went from don't leave a very, what could be profitable at the time that you were working on business. I think you had just gotten your first client or your first 2 clients.
Yeah. Like, I had a baby startup. I had a couple of customers. I was selling stuff. It's exactly where it should have been. Nothing was wrong with it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't this.
Yeah. So I was like, don't abandon ship yet. And then you know what? Let's do this. And I want to be your co-founder, and I'll quit my job, which is crazy because I'm not a risk taker. I don't identify as that. I've weird millennial that has had the same job for almost 15 years. I mean, clearly there was a career trajectory there, but still I hadn't left my first job out of college. And I thought, wow, one, I wanted to work for Stephanie since 2007. So jeez. There you go. Here we are.
No pressure.
No pressure. Thought that she was definitely going to make clear decisions that were something worth chasing or leading. She hadn't done that yet, guys. So by the way, it took a while, but here we are now.
How did you go from being a very strong career path of a job for 15 years to you're like, I wanted to work for Stephanie, but what else?
Yeah, of course. So I mean that endearingly, obviously, but why Huntress? Because I believe in the mission. I had a 180 career shift. I went from working in institutional finance in a very B2B world, where I was working in what I will call micro niche space in finance. There's trillions of dollars, and there's only a few $100 billion in that space.
Only. Yeah.
But it's still that's pretty micro niche if you think about how much money, what is JP Morgan?
I spend a lot of time in commercial real estate.
Yeah.
That's micro niche.
Yeah, micro niche. So but if I was going to leave my job to start a company, I was not going to start for what an idea of like a small business owner.
Which you come from your history.
Exactly.
Like, it's not that like you're against small business ownership. It's just like, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, not against small business ownership. My husband is now a small business owner, and that's fantastic, and I love that for him, and I love that for everybody that wanted to do it. But for me,
and your dad, and I recently learned your mom and dad together.
Yes.
And then I recently learned also your grandfather. Like, there's like a long story.
Yes.
Of like,
yeah, but you have
ownership.
Like, you still have, like, having a small business, you still have the same problems, just at a different scale.
Oh, it's all on your shoulders.
Exactly. And you're still worrying about, you know, I felt like, oh, I can work in finance, be a partner. Yeah. Become a partner and, like, not have to stress about day-to-day lives.
Like, while your job had stressors, you kind of knowing small business life versus that life, it was like, yeah, I'll go the stress-free route.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to stay up at night necessarily thinking about that. But with the story of Huntress, like, I was so compelled that, I thought, hey, I don't know what this is going to be, and I'm very honest about this. I hope that this is going to be mega successful.
You've set my watermark at $1 billion.
There you go.
So,
manifesting.
Just putting that out there.
We are manifesting just like any good millennial and Gen Zer. We're manifesting. But I do think it is a really amazing mission of helping women plus become educated and empowered to invest on their own. I think that eventually we'll bring some tech to that'll be exciting, and I believe that the market that we're serving at Huntress is one that's generally underserved, not only because of, you know, specifically women, but the idea that people, no matter if you're a woman or a man, generally speaking, aren't necessarily thinking, oh, I need one-on-one financial advice at the age of like late 20s to early 30s. And most of that is because our current financial industry and the way financial advisories work is that you have to have some sort of AUM that's like, call it above 500K to turn over. Yeah. And then there's always people that, like, you know, we're working on shifting mindset, right? Like, we want to help people not only with making what I would think is like a pure investment decision, you know, like how do I manage my money, or like what does this mean, but also just reframing mindset on finances and investments, and how we go from like a scarcity mindset, for example, to a mindset of it's okay to invest, I don't just have to budget, reframing that, and working with experts, not only that are financial advisors, which people traditionally think are financial experts, but also financial therapists, and helping that journey along the way of what currently we're calling like a financial wellness journey. Yeah.
And it's funny, in a lot of the conversations we've been having, I've been like, to the mindfulness side, there's a whole lot of women, it's very common not to let yourself imagine what more could look like. Like, I have a very common question, like, hey, what would you do if you got $10 million tomorrow? And for some people, it's a very fun question. They'll start spouting stuff off, and it's not necessarily things they'd buy, sometimes it is, but things they would do differently in their lives if they had that kind of financial independence. But there's a whole lot of people that are paralyzed by that question, and there's a barrier to imagining more for ourselves. It's not that you need 10 million to be happy, and this is talk rich to me. Like, rich isn't just about having money, it's about having ownership over your time, being able to follow things that are important to you, being able to talk about your values. I've definitely felt, working in corporate environments, there's things I'm not allowed to talk about at work, or even broadly outside of work because of my work persona. That freedom to live your best life. That's cliche, but true. And so that's that limiting belief, that mindset part. Sometimes it is just, I need to feel safe. And money is a very common tool for people to feel safe But there's also, if you start thinking of money as a tool to help you enact different areas of your life, safety being one of them, it just becomes more powerful.
Yeah. It's awesome. I feel like a friend of mine years ago, she started her own business. She was in marketing, I should say, prior to starting her own business, which is like health coaching and like weight loss, whatever business. But anyways, she was like, yeah, it's just like, I'm like so passionate about this, and the success is just like fun, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like that is growth mindset, or like maybe I have the opposite of growth mindset, because at the time I was like, oh man, like that's like crazy. Like, how can you be passionate about your job?
You are very success oriented for one. So Yesenia, we are very conscious in all of our programming and speaking, even though it's a little awkward to say it when speaking sometimes, of saying women plus. What do we mean by that?
So for me personally, I know that we had a lot of conversations about that it was really important for me to have women plus. And I think that clearly the target is women who are born a woman, identify as a woman. That's obvious, right?
Yeah.
But the plus part to me is also having to do with other marginalized communities, right? So you don't have to be just a woman to have come into the issue that we want to break. And that issue that we are so looking to do is educate people who, and provide them not only with education, but one-on-one financial coaching to people that wouldn't normally get that, because their parents didn't teach them and they didn't grow up in a country club to use. And I think that can be, people of color, that can be other marginalized communities. I have a large community of LGBTQIA plus friends, and they feel they get bucketed in that. I also think that there's advocates of women. Like, we want this to not just be about the female side of a relationship. If there's a partner that's a male, we want to be inclusive of that in our planning and making sure that we're not leaving out anyone just because their partner is male.
Yeah, I think notably, we have because we went back and how far into women, hear me roar, do we go? And there's two kind of extremes we wanted to stay away from. On one end, finance is finance. Good financial practices and financial planning and financial confidence, it's kind of genderless. They're tools, they're facts, they're things to learn. But we also recognize that there is a set of experiences that is being underserved, right? The finances of freezing eggs, having babies, menopause, overt, obvious things, but it's just not always obvious. And then we've also identified the big mindset part. So it doesn't matter if you identify as a woman or otherwise, if money wasn't talked about when you were growing up, if a financial advisor has ever kind of ignored your needs, if it's just not clicking in terms that you're using and feels relatable and understandable, you're not dumb. Finance is a made up thing. Money is made up. Money is a construct, but we all live with it, and we want to be that bridge from not being included to being included. And so women is a really important target demographic for us, but nothing that we're doing is innately only beneficial to women. Anyone can use this. The bro-iest dude can sign up and he would benefit. Hopefully, I think. The thing is, we just decided to not base it around the default experience. And the default experience today in our society is men. And so it's not only for women, it is that we're designing it for women plus. That's who we're making it for. That doesn't mean it's not relevant to other people. On the other end of it, for this podcast, for everything that we're doing, we didn't want to go, you've been using the term girly pop, right? We don't have to make it cute to make it understandable. We're not afraid of being femme, but that's not the core identifying factor of how we're talking. There's a whole genre out there that is make it cute, and it's hopefully we're cute sometimes. We like to be playful, but it's not a personality we feel we have to put on to be helpful and appealing to people. We're not going to dumb it down. We're not going to make it sound existential. We want to provide validation. We want to provide a sense of calm and confidence. And we want to talk to you in a way that feels natural. We're not going to dial up. Like, we are women. It's going to be femme, but it's not girly pop.
It's a judgment-free zone. We want our stories to provide you with confidence.
And we plan to provide lots of different formats for you to get information from us, whatever is best for you. And so we want it to feel good. Like, we keep talking about feelings, and it's like money brings feelings. Like, we want you, someone I interviewed, they're like, yeah, when I finished talking, it felt like I had just come out of a therapist. Like, it felt like I got a warm hug about, like, money and finances. And, like, we don't want to be flashy to grab your attention. We don't have to be flashy to grab your attention. We don't have to be girly pop to make you understand things.
We're not for you. Those people are great, by the way.
We
like,
don't
I love
have to
that.
shame you into, like, change. Right?
Yeah.
There's whole areas of the industry that do any of those things, and maybe they're not innately bad. I don't know. I won't go there, but they're not for us.
Yeah. And I think that, for me, that's really important, because anytime I'm learning a topic personally, I don't like for people to talk to me in a way that they wouldn't speak to others, if that makes sense, just because I'm not, I'm not a doctor, but if a doctor's talking to me, I don't want them to speak to me like a child. We don't have to make finance cute, because it's not cute, but it can be relatable.
It should be boring.
Yeah.
Finance should be boring. That's a good sign.
Chill, babe.
It should be chill. Finance is chill.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also the not jargon, though, or not using jargon without explaining it. Right?
So hard.
So it's this zone between girly pop and jargon. We'd love your feedback on that. If you ever feel like we're going one way or the other, but we feel like there's a happy middle that's relatable and understandable and makes you feel like you can go do something with it that's not intimidating or, you said mansplaining, but intimidating or just makes you feel worse, makes you feel dumb.
Yeah,
right?
No, mansplaining's a great thing. I don't like mansplaining things. I don't ever want to feel like I'm mansplaining to you. And if I am one mansplaining, but still, it's that feeling that you get that it's like, ugh.
You can't have womansplaining without mansplaining.
I feel like we need to tell people about unabashed, about our mission.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, when you look at what we're trying to achieve, we just want to make sure that everything that we do, which I think was such a cool exercise when we did our, when we worked on this together, but everything that we would do would be with unabashed sincerity. And I hope that that's what you get from these stories, is just that.
So why are we doing this podcast?
Yeah, so why the podcast? I am going to be honest with you all. I have wanted to do some form of a podcast since the early 2010s. When they first started getting popular, it was...
You're like a podcast hipster.
I mean, I remember when my first son was born, I had a very long commute at the time, or I guess technically till a week ago, but, it was 45-minute commute, and I would just listen to podcasts all the time because it was so nice to, it was free, and unlike audiobooks, even when they are free from the library, you still have to wait sometimes, and I don't like waiting, so...
You don't say.
Yes, not patient, but I've always wanted to do a podcast, and when we were working on the idea of Huntress and what what was our strategy going to be as far as like marketing and stuff, I was like, I don't really know about podcasts, to be honest. Not sure if that's going to be that successful, or I don't know what the right word is, but the right marketing strategy.
Yeah, and you talked like when you were having doubts about one, I thought it was a given to me that we were going to have one, not because it's obvious business, but because it's something you've been very interested in, and following your interests tends to generate good things, just like in life. Because I was like, I knew we were going to have a podcast, but you went through this like journey of doubt getting to this, because like one, does our audience want that? Great question. Right. Two, are we saying anything different? Or are we just like another one out here just promoting ourselves or other things? I understand we all need to make money, but you didn't want this to just be a promotion.
Right, yeah. And the idea of not wanting it to be a promotion, wanting it to be more of like what our community wants, what we're trying to build, how are we engaging our fellow huntresses.
Yeah.
Is that the appropriate term? Huntresses? Okay, great.
Yeah, it's hard to say all the S's, but yes, that's right.
I was having lunch with one of my friends. I was talking to you about it, and then came up with like, how are we going to differentiate ourselves from not just being another financial podcast / influencer? And one thing that I learned is that we all want to hear real stories. We all want human connection, I think, at the end of the day. And one thing that we want to do at Huntress, which you can tell me if you feel differently, is to make people feel comfortable about sometimes what can be uncomfortable situations, because frankly, we grew up, or at least I grew up, saying we weren't supposed to talk about money. We weren't supposed to talk about how much money we made. Like, I don't even know how much money my parents make.
Well, I have no idea what they made or how much they have.
Yeah. We don't talk about things like that, and even that's with even really supportive parents, right? Like my parents were really supportive.
Well, and we were lucky that both of our parents talked to us about money, just not their money.
Yes.
Right? Like there was what we should do. There was, as we were adults, telling us what we should do, not necessarily like as children making it a safe topic.
So I think that that's what we want to do with this podcast. Like, yeah, there might be some podcasts where you hear us talking about a specific financial topic or something trending. But I think that what we want to focus on is showcasing real humans telling their stories about sometimes these uncomfortable situations. So things you can expect to hear. One of my dear friends, co-parenting and co-financing post-separation, and the strategy and story. And I feel like, that's something we should talk about. One of my other friends' husband passed away suddenly, and how did she deal with finances afterwards?
And I think there's something to not glossing over them, but those aren't necessarily unique scenarios. Like how we react in them and what we learn through them might be unique, but these are things we as humans all go through. Like, because like I'm talking about this, right? Should we just get other influencers and it'd be so cool if we got this famous person, which by the way, we still would love that, but that doesn't matter. It's the humanity. Everyone has a financial story to tell. Sometimes they're afraid to tell it. Sometimes they think no one will care. They don't see the value in sharing it. But I think we all know the value of hearing other people's stories. Maybe we learn something, but also just like the humanity of it, the normalcy of money. Yeah, like some of it's like we've come across a lot of people who have trouble imagining more or letting themselves think about more. And so I hope some of our stories pull people out of that into what could be, right? It's okay to have aspirations and ambitions, and maybe that's make an impact, maybe that's live on a beach. Who cares? Coming out of that shell a little bit, but also just like things we're all probably gonna go through, if not directly, then through people we love, and like just talking about it. It's okay to talk about money.
Yeah. You had a really good, I'm quoting you now, so I hope, this gets famous. It's the power that money gives you and the power you give money. But it was actually vice versa, right? It's the power you give money, which I think we all give money power, right?
Yeah.
But how does that power you? And like, how do you do those things? How do you make that change?
Yeah.
So I was trying to, I think one thing when we were talking about podcast strategy was like, how are we going to make this thematic? And I think we were looking for names. We had different ones.
Some of them were taken.
Yes.
Which is fine.
Yeah. Yes, thank you, the arrow, on the mark, whatever. They all took them. But Stephanie came up with Talk Rich to me, and I was like, I like it, but I'm not sure.
I think this echoes back to when we were first talking about starting this company, and we didn't have any messaging. We hadn't had any interviews. Like, we were just going off of, like, whims at this time. And I was like, I want to make women really beat me out fucking rich. And you were really turned off by that. One, you didn't know if the curse word would carry. And two, I think rich turned you off too. And I was like, no, that's not our mission. That's just the placeholder. It's the 5 words, what I'm thinking about all day, every day. Right? No, that's not our mission statement. But even back to that, you didn't like the word rich. So talk rich to me. Your first reaction, I was like, oh, it's like a dirty word. Like, talk dirty to me. Talk rich to me.
Yeah.
But then...
Yeah, I was not sure, and Stephanie wanted to take something that might have, like, a negative connotation, so going back to, like, our parents creating that money is taboo, effectively, or that we shouldn't talk about it if it's not, like, what you talk about at the dinner table.
Or with friends, like, money ruins friendships. Like,
yes.
The number, like, I feel like girls get told don't go into business together, but boys get told, like, you should co-found with your bestie, and we're just like, we're doing that.
We're breaking the mold.
Yeah.
But taking that and making it into, like, a positive connotation. So, like, rich isn't money, right? Or, like, it can be money, but how, what enriches your life, basically?
Yeah, like, what does a whole life look like? And, like, rich absolutely can be money. People with a lot of money we would all call rich, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're happy, right? That doesn't mean that they're using that power in a way that empowers them. So I think other ways of being rich that money can enable, but you might be able to achieve some of these other ways. It's like slowing down time. It's having control of time is richness. Being able to go on a field trip with your kid and not have to worry about taking the time off work is richness. That was Ethan yesterday.
Went roller skating, y'all. By the way, I lost. But I didn't fall.
That's great.
I didn't win any races.
Which means I think you won.
I didn't win any races, but
you did not fall.
Yeah.
So it's, like, talk rich to me when we're talking with our guests, when we're talking with each other. It's obviously this is a finance podcast. We'll be checking that finance category box, but
already done.
It's not, it's being overtly rich, but it's also how can we use money to make our lives richer.
So you're going to hear this every time, spoiler alert. What does rich mean to you? And so since you're the one that came up with the idea, I'm going to go ahead and put that on you, Stephanie.
Yeah, so for me, it's definitely the ability to control time and the ability not to worry about money. And that's not to say I'm fully at a 10 on either of those two things, but my life in the last year, a little bit longer, has, like, dramatically shifted to where I'm in control of my time. And for the most part, I'm confident in our level of spending and our income, and not indefinitely. We still have work to do to be able to retire and do whatever or achieve all of our big dreams. But I have so much control over my time right now. And frankly, it's something or at least I could be treating in some of to go do this business. It's a give and take. I might feel a little bit less rich for a while, time-wise.
And money-wise.
With, our goals of the other side of this being even more control of time and even more not worrying about money. I would love my brain space to be full of talking about money with other people, but empty of worrying about money for myself and the people around me.
It's good.
What does rich mean to you?
Gosh, I haven't. Yeah.
Did you not expect me to ask it?
No, I was. I think that going back to that, like a lot of people will say, oh, just because you're rich, aka have a lot of money, doesn't mean that you're happy. Mm-hmm. I feel like in a lot of ways, richness does mean happiness to me, because I guess I've said it like 10 times already. I'm a family person. I've mentioned my husband. Haven't mentioned my kids, but being able to hang out with them and not worry about money is being rich. So I don't think that I need to be Bill Gates or anybody super, super wealthy to be rich in that way. But it would be nice to just, hey kids, want to go to Disney World? Yeah, sure. We're not there yet. But being able to do those things to make happiness.
You say not there yet, and I think it's important to highlight that there are life choices we could have made that would make us there.
Yep.
Staying W-2ing, certainly the ability to take a week off was painful sometimes from work, but money wasn't the problem to be able to go do stuff like that. And it's like it's trades, right? Yeah. Like there are times where you could have just been like, absolutely hop on the plane to Disney World, and like you could have.
I mean, yeah, just Disney. You're right, making choices, because I just mean, if I'm going to spend $10,000 on a trip.
I mean, I did it to Paris instead.
Exactly.
We did the Olympics, not Disney.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. Disney World would make my children very happy. I don't know. Seeing them happy makes me happy. Yeah. But also, they're happy going to a beach. If we're going to spend money, like we're going to prioritize, like, Sunday taking our family somewhere. Whereas it feels painful to spend $10,000 to go to a theme park, especially when one of your kids, like one of my kids is still just turned 4, right? Yeah. He's not going to remember Disney. And it's
he can't ride all the rides.
Yeah, and he can't ride all the rides. And he wants to do everything.
I was going to say, and telling him he can't ride the rides would be a problem.
Exactly. Already stressed.
That's, I feel like both of our answers were shaped around the world that we have now. And again, back to that, like wanting people to be okay with hoping for more. It's not like I'm stressed about having more, but if we ever get to having a lot, I do want to make real world differences in business and government. And I say business and government personally because for business, I've been in the startup space for 10 years, and I remember actually before that, corporate world, Fortune 500, I remember learning how many female CEOs there were, and I was like, well, that's some bullshit. Maybe startup world will be better. And no, far worse. So to the problem of why aren't there more women founders? And you can go and blame VCs all day. Like, absolutely, that's real. But I think there's this, and I'll say the stat I'm blaming VCs all day is 12% of tech founders are women. Only 3% of funding goes to women tech founders. And so that's a dramatic difference, right? If it was 12%, then it's not the VC's fault. But why are only 12% of companies started by women, right? And I don't have all the answers on that, but the bias in the ecosystem is part of it. I want to be able to go be an angel investor for hundreds of women-led companies, women plus led companies. I want to be at the dinner in not Mar-a-Lago telling the president what I think policy should be, right? Like, I want to fund candidates that I think can go make a way bigger difference than I can in those arenas that they're experts in. There's the world I'm living in and what rich means, but then there's also the aspiration rich. What I want to do or what you want to do are probably different things, right? But like that living fully, that like dreaming bigger, going for it, if we can amplify that even just among 10 women, let alone 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000, that's huge. It's not just about you and me.
No, we're not doing this for you and me.
No.
We're doing this for the greater good, which I do believe, obviously believe that. We're doing this for the greater good. I love that. I love that we can say that about our mission.
I love that 2 months ago my mom was just like, Stephanie, you seem way happier now. Yep, nothing materially has changed other than what I'm spending all day every day doing. I am just materially happier doing this.
Yeah, and
we haven't achieved anything
yet.
Yeah,
exactly. We're working on ideas but that's coming, we're very close to having an actual product that we can sell. But yeah, I think it's so cool to do something that you're passionate about. And I can't wait to do a whole segment on starting your own business and, what that means for not just like us. Because I think it's fair that if we're going to interview people, we should share our stories, but I also like to hear from other business owners of how they started and what their journey was. And hey, Sarah Blakely, if you want to come hang.
Oh, should we say our top ideal people to have on?
Sure.
Let's do it. You said Sarah.
Yeah, so we're going to manifest.
Yeah. Okay.
We're going to manifest with all of our listeners.
All right.
We want to have normal people, first of all.
Oh, yeah. But it's the whole idea that everybody has stories, and this isn't like their stories are any more important than anyone else's. It's people we've long admired, broke barriers, look up to. This doesn't mean their stories are any more important.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Sarah Blakely.
Absolutely. Her podcast, How I Built This, that she was featured on, was really incredible. Love her scrappiness.
I'll start with my lead, Taylor Swift. Girl made $1 billion on music, which there's lots of other musicians who are billionaires, but she's kind of the first one to have done it.
Yeah.
On music alone.
And
brand. Very strong branding.
So many people I want on this podcast.
Well, who's next?
Guys, Bad Bunny, duh. Definitely in the plus category. Definitely, I hope he's in the plus category. I see him out there. I saw today that Yale is actually doing a course on him.
Fantastic. Like
music and politics, I forget, but it's the first ever, and I love that. I love that, he made a big stand. He's definitely Latino. I'm Latina. But yeah, you said Taylor Swift, so if we're going, we are different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I want the exact opposite.
It's I don't think they're opposites.
No,
they're both really good musicians.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I saw another pop star, but also I like her music, but it was when she started businesses that I'm like, oh, girl's got it.
I could go on and on about who I want on our podcast, but
do you want to get one more in, or?
No, it's hard because then it's one more, and you have to choose one.
I know, and there's 50 more, so we'll stop.
So that's a wrap. Thanks for joining, and for those that are watching on YouTube, we'll see. Hopefully that was good. It's our first time.
We'll get better.
Yeah, but thank you for joining us and getting rich. Talk rich to me.
Talk rich to me.
You've been listening to Talk Rich to Me, a production from Huntress Wealth. For more chill takes on finance, sign up for our newsletter at huntresswealth.com. That's HUNTRESSWEALTH.com.